Now, similarly, we have a version of this for the definition of congruent angles or for angles. So if I have two angles that are congruent, we typically write them such as angle A being congruent to angle B. And when we talk about their measures or something in degrees, we mention it as the measure of angle A is equal to the measure of angle B. So again, their measures are equal, and the use of the congruent symbol tells us these two things are the same or congruent. Now, the definition of congruent angles when we're using proofs allows us to bounce between the two and use that information within our proof. So we utilize that as the definition of congruent angles. Oops. There we go. So let's look and see what that kind of a proof would look like. We have a situation here that says given, so I'm going to copy down my given, angle A is congruent to angle B, and the measure of angle A equals 37 degrees. That is all provided in my given. My goal is to get my proof statement to say the measure of angle B is 37 degrees. So because my two angles are congruent, I can now say their measures are equal to each other. So the measure of angle A equals the measure of angle B, and my reasoning is the definition of congruent angles. The definition of congruent angles. Now, because of that definition of congruent angles, those two measures are equal to each other. And I need to look at, do I see the measure of an angle written anywhere else in my proof? And I do, right here. That measure of angle A, since it's provided for me, is going to help give me information to solve or to get my proof statement set up. Because I have the measure of angle A equal to 37 degrees, and it is equal to the measure of angle B, I can now say that the measure of angle, that 37 degrees is equal to the measure of angle B. Now, how many pieces do I have here? How many different colors? I have one. I have orange, green, and blue. Orange, green, and blue. So I have 3 different colors. So what that tells me is that I have used transitive property. Something we talked about, but we didn't really get to use a lot in our algebraic proofs, but you did learn about it at the beginning of the semester. It's one of those things when you have three sets of information and they're all equal to different pieces of that information, that you can basically substitute or swap them around. People often confuse this with substitution, but since there are 3 separate equal signs and 3 separate pieces of information, remember, transitive starts with a T and 3 starts with a T. So everything happens in groups of 3. 3 equal signs or 3 congruent signs with 3 sets of information. The measure of angle A is a piece, the measure of angle B is a piece, and that 37 degrees is a piece of information. So now, again, I'm trying to get that proof statement to match, which has the measure of angle B on the left-hand side. So I'm going to need to swap sides. And once I do that, because we are switching, the symmetric property is what we used. That symmetric property. So that provides us all of the information we need for our proof for the definition of congruent angles.